Welcome to Heart in Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that's a day late because it was my birthday on Monday and I never work on my birthday. This week on Heart in Hand, congratulations to all the Rangers players because it was obviously all their birthdays at the beginning of the second half against Hamilton. So welcome to Heart in Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar and I'm joined this week by two guests to go through yet another big week for RFC for probably the wrong reasons. First up, returning guest, Mr. Ian Hogg.
Good evening, David. Good evening, everyone.
How's it feel being back the other side of the mic after your go at being host last week?
It's a far comfier place and I genuinely hope everyone out there in pod listening land is looking forward to a pod full of light-hearted knob jokes and bants about Saturday.
Yeah, invective might be the word. Here to balance it up with usually a more sensible opinion on things, but even his patience has been tested this week. It's Andy McGowan. How you doing, mate?
How you doing, David?
I feel old.
Absolutely no knob jokes for me this weekend.
Well, there was an easy one there where you knobbed you, and I could have went into the players, but I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna be too much of a gentleman to do it. But yeah, let's get right into it because I think there's an awful lot for us to chew over this week. So first of all, Rangers versus Hamilton Academical on Saturday. Rangers, you may be aware, hadn't lost to Hamilton in our lifetimes, and in fact not far off our combined lifetimes, 90 years, we hadn't lost to Hamilton at Ibrox in the league. Of course, there being the famous 8-7 game, which I was also at, so I'm clearly Hamilton's good luck charm. But Rangers, I thought, played very well for half an hour, missed a hatful of chances, began to slow down and panic a little bit in the last 15 minutes. At the start of the second half, made a stupid mistake, and then slight panic gave way to full-blown, oh shit, we're fucked. And it was painful and somewhat embarrassing to watch, and of course Hamilton got their second. The game was over, and a very, very, very unhappy Ibrox. So Andy, first up, your take on Saturday.
I think it's one of those games where if you had a better season today, you might have just put it down to one of those days, but it's certainly not the case. I think you're exactly right. First half, we should have been out of sight with many chances and some really good play. And I think if we had taken one of those, then I think the rest of the game would have been a formality. But for not the first time this season, we didn't take our chances and we gave ourselves a hard job to do when it really shouldn't have been the case. There's a lot to talk about here because I think you can allude to the fact that I'm a fairly generous supporter, but really I think the gloves are off as far as I'm concerned this week.
Well, I mean that's unfortunately the position we find ourselves in, that it's even as supporters like you or myself, we're more inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt that there comes a point where it's like, lads, I can't keep doing this, and not beating Hamilton at home, I'm afraid, with no disrespect to Hamilton, but with all the respect to Hamilton that is due after them not winning at Ibrox for that length of time, we should be beating them at home, Ian, and it's an awful, terrible result. We can't hide that.
And I think, David, you talked there about the first half hour. You're right. Until the penalty box, we were great. We dominated the play. We passed the ball. We moved it, and we moved it quickly. And it was all at pace. It was all quite fluid. And we missed chance after chance after chance. The bit that really stuck for me was we missed all those chances, and the keeper had almost nothing to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Morelos, for all I'm really, really impressed by him, he is just a kid, had a shocking half hour. I mean, there's two that are right on his head, hit the target, he scores. One, he almost fucking hit it into the ground and hit off his chin just about. And the other one, he hits the bar and he's a bit unfortunate. But you could visibly see after that first half hour, Ibrox started to grumble and the players just went within themselves. And from that, Hamilton and yeah, Hamilton are a wee side. They came to do what Motherwell did to us at Hampden. They came to bully us, and by fuck, after half an hour, their players just bullied us off the park.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think they came expecting to get beat, hoping to avoid a hiding, and would have been quite happy to go away with a 2 or 3 goal loss. I think they couldn't believe the luck, and I think that the first half hour indicates that the way that they played. I think that they weren't particularly ambitious, and rightfully so. We pushed them back, but no, I don't think they did that. I think that they just completely couldn't believe the luck at how easy Rangers made it for them in the second half. Once they had taken the lead, and of course got that little boost that all teams get when they take an unexpected lead away from home. 2 names, obviously Morelos is one. But the 2 names I want to talk about are him and Josh Windass, because I thought in the first half Josh Windass was by far Rangers' best player, believe it or not, and it's a guy who's taken a lot of flack, but I thought he tore him apart on his wing, and some terrific crosses, and as you say, one in particular where he has given Morelos an open goal. All he has to do is head the ball down and out of the net, but he somehow managed to head it down and onto his feet and over the bar. But we've seen this a lot. We've coined the term on here, Andy, the term Windassian, for these brief moments. You can say, that was Windass, like a band who produces one good album and then a series of crap after it. It's like they're Windassian, because another bout of he can play, come on son, and then followed by a complete and utter failure to look like a footballer in the second half, of which he wasn't alone, but this is something that happens regularly with him.
I think Windass, and the fact that he's more or less a first pick just now in our first 11, kind of epitomises where we are, because I think we all know that he's got ability somewhere. Everybody keeps on telling us he's the best player in training and so forth, but it's not enough. It's just not enough, because what happens with Windass is he's in a forward position. He's a left winger playing for Rangers. We're looking to do things this season, and it doesn't hurt teams enough. He very rarely hurts teams, in fact. He gets into good positions, and we've seen a couple of good crosses at the weekend, and we're actually saying, well, that was a surprise, because he actually had a final product. He's not doing enough for me, and over the piece now, he's been here 18 months. I know he's had a wee bit of injury time as well, but over the 18 months, can you really say hand on heart that there's been much from him at all? I don't think he can. I think he would be helped if he was in a better team, but what player wouldn't he? Right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of responsibility on you if you are a winger or a wide man playing for Rangers, playing at home with expectation. Not every player can handle it. You're right, David, he did well in the first half, but it's not enough, unfortunately.
No.
When you compare him to Barry Mackay last year, he couldn't lace Barry Mackay's boots, and look at how he came in for criticism from time to time, because at least Barry hurt teams from time to time, or more often than not. Windass, I'm not seeing it at all, and I don't think he's going to have a career at the Rangers, to be brutally frank.
Ian, does stuff like that help, when the rest of the team come out and say, he's the best player in training, and then, you see clips from training of these amazing finishes and stuff. Does that help or hinder him? Because, you see all this, and then you see what you get on match days, and I think it almost raises my ire as opposed to makes me think, we just need to keep going with him. I don't know if it helps or it hurts him.
So I've said before the pod, David, that I having watched and listened his interviews, I think he's clearly inherited his dad's brain power. However, what he hasn't inherited is his dad's bravery, ability to stand up in the football park and just give as good as he gets. I can't help but feel you get all this. He's the best player in training. He's scoring some lovely goals. The going gets tough. He hides. We've seen it time and time again. And of course, and I'm sure we'll touch on the pod later, but it becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that, that happens, then the crowd gets on his back, then he disappears up his own arse, then the crowd gets on his back further, and down we go down the spiral. It's genuinely not helping anyone, and there's almost an inevitability about the outcome.
Well, it's hard to talk much more about Morelos because I think everyone listening to this would agree with us, and I think the three of us would be in agreement. He's a good player who's going through a really terrible run of form at the moment because he's lost confidence and he desperately needs a goal. We all know that. However, I think it's fair to say most people would still rate him as a good player, someone definitely worth persevering with. Does that sound fair, lads?
I'd say so.
Yeah, right. So, moving on then. The reason that I bring up him and Josh Windass is I think football teams live or die by their recruitment. And here's the problem and why these two players, for me, are linked. Because they have to play because we don't have replacements. In the summer, we tried to get Jamie Walker, failed, had no plan B, ended up with no one. And that's meant that Josh Windass, when fit, has played pretty much more or less all the time. Morelos, the person who would be in contention for his spot is Eduardo Herrera, who was clearly not trusted by Pedro and clearly isn't trusted by Graham Murty either. And we literally have one striker who at the moment, although talented, is shit out of form. At any other club could do with going on at the bench for a few weeks and then maybe being introduced when we're winning and getting that goal and getting his mojo back. And this is where poor recruitment is biting us on the arse. What do you reckon to that point, Andy?
I think you're right. There's players playing in that team that in days gone by they would have been rested or taken out the firing line. Morelos is a case in point. We're so reliant on his goals this season that we can't really afford to drop him. I suppose drop him is the wrong word, but we can't afford to put him on the bench and try somebody else. Herrera, I think he's been unlucky, right? Because every time he's been brought on, it's been a firefighting situation. He's been brought on as a substitute, and invariably he gets used as a target man. Which at 6'2", he isn't a target man. He's one of the worst players in the air I've seen. He gets smaller when he jumps, but what he has shown is that he's got something in the box. If you get the ball to him at his feet, then he can link. But he also seems to get in the right positions in the box. We've seen that against Partick. We've seen it his cameo up at Dingwall as well. I don't know if his answer, right? And I know Louis Moult will come into the conversation at some point, right? But when you see what he's doing at Motherwell, I don't think only Rangers that are kicking themselves that they didn't actually take the punt of £500,000, £750,000 to recruit the guy, because if you compare him to the strikers we've got at our disposal apart from Morelos, then you're right, it comes back to personnel in the squad. And I think it's wider than just Morelos and Windass. I think there's a number of players there that the realisation hit me on Saturday that you are not going to win things if you're relying on me, Jason Holt, Danny Wilson. The bench is very, very poor. The squad players, I don't even know if they're going to do as squad players now. This is the kind of desperation stakes where Hodgson's another one. Should even be at Rangers anymore. There is an issue with the overall standard of the squad, definitely, David.
I think that's a great point, and if you listen to this pod, we've said in the last few weeks that Holt and Wilson have been good and they deserve praise, but this is unfortunately what always happens. And again, we go back to the point of whether or not you're an optimistic supporter like myself or Andy would tend to be, or maybe a more pessimistic supporter like Ian is generally, and we'll come to him and he'll prove it in a minute. And it's amazing to me that you said that, because that was exactly the same realisation I had on Saturday, where I'm thinking, look, it doesn't matter if Hull or Wilson or Hodgson have a good game or two good games, they will revert to the mean because that's their level, and it's unfair of me to expect them to play at that level. The way that Jason Holt played at Tynecastle is the exception, it's not the rule, and there's nothing in his time at Rangers to tell me that it is going to be the rule. So I'm wrong, and almost, Ian, I feel, am I being unfair on these guys by criticising them, when the fact of the matter is that's the level of ability that they have?
So, yeah, I'm a pessimistic cynic. I'll freely admit it. Is that unfair? No, I don't think it is. I mean, take. You started talking there about the signing policy in the summer. This is where it starts to come back to bite us. I'm a big believer, and David, we've talked about this in the pod in the past, that, we in the summer, we bypassed our own backyard with proven players like Molt. And Molt's a great example because he's ripping it up just now. And we could have got him for way less than we reportedly paid for Herrera, when Herrera was, let's face it, a punt from Mexico that had never played out of Mexico. It doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to say, do you know what? That might be a risk too far. Maybe we go with the tried and tested. In terms of then the rest of the squad, you know, your Wilsons, your Hodgsons, Jesus, your Holtz, all the rest of it. You know, again, I'm a firm believer in you get the outcome that you deserve. And from a recruitment, a strength and depth point of view, we're getting the outcome that we deserve. We can't string 3 wins together, let alone 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins together. We're at the level we're at because, frankly, that is where we're at. And going beyond that, you know, you look at Candace on social media got a bit of a rough ride at the weekend, and he's probably been one of the better signings for us since the summer. But again, he's been a journeyman throughout his career, and he's a winger. He's going to be inconsistent. One of the stats I saw at the weekend, David, was we had 50 plus crosses into the box, and we created practically nothing.
Well, second half, first half. I mean,
certainly the second half. And watching the game, and I watched the rerun, and I started watching the second half for a third time. I was that much of a glutton for punishment. The amount of times, and it's a big frustration of mine, even when it's advocate years, the amount of times that the ball goes wide, we cross it, or we take a corner and we hit the first man, it's absolutely fucking criminal.
Controversial thought lobbed into the conversation time, Andy. With that amount of crosses going in, would it have been useful to have someone who arrives late into the box and can head the ball a la Carlos Peña?
Yes, definitely. Forget about the rumours, right, and what he's doing off the park, because, see, to be honest, I think there would be more proof if there was something tangible to it, right?
In terms of pictures,
let's just pretend for a second that it's not true and that he's available for selection. Peña, when he played, was doing things that were useful to the team, right? Now, he might have been shit on the ball, he might have been getting caught in possession, he couldn't tackle a fish supper. However, what he does give you is something which is expensive in football, which is a striker in midfield. That's essentially what he is. He's got a striker's instinct, but he plays in midfield. And he's harder to mark because, as you say, David, he's at the edge of the box. He's making late runs. He's just got that kind of sixth sense that he knows where to be when a ball's going in the box. So I would have thought, and I was hoping that he would have been on the bench on Saturday, because we have got a poor bench most weeks. When we make substitutions, it doesn't make the team better. It doesn't allow us to chase games or increase pressure on our opposition. The likes of Peña is something that is hard for players, opposition players, to pick up when they come on as a sub. Does a centre half go follow him into midfield? Does a midfielder drop and pick him up? Things like that can cause confusion, can create space, not just for Peña but for other players. So you're exactly right. There is an argument that right, he might not be the best signing, he might never be a success at Rangers, but see if we've got him sitting in the house when he's fit, I'm not so sure that's the right thing. And I don't think that's me sitting saying he's a better player than he actually is, because I know his faults, but there's one thing he can do, and that's get on the end of the box, end of crosses in the box, late runs.
I'm a great believer, if you're paying somebody's wages, then to banish them for any to banish them for any reasons that you can't find them those wages is a bit foolish, because you're still paying it, you're not getting any return. And watching the game back on the Sunday, exact same sort of thing occurred to me, where I'm thinking, you know, had he been there, all right, yes, we know in a game against Celtic he's going to get caught in the ball, he's not going to contribute in midfield the way we need him to, but against Hamilton, when they've got a lot of their defenders in the box and they're trying just to hit in the break, we're firing in cross after cross after cross, I thought that having him to come off the bench might have been useful. That leads us on to a couple of points that I think are interlinked. The first one is the weekly Kenny Miller section. And Ian, again, after Partick, I thought that Miller was was back to his worst Wayne Rooney-esque chasing after the ball like a school kid performance, where he was everywhere but where he should be. And I think that increased the pressure on Morelos, who a lot of the times in the second half was trying to make near post runs up until he went off, was trying to make near post runs, but was had two men on him because Hamilton felt they didn't need to have a man on Miller on those occasions. And I wonder if Graham Murty is capable of making him stick to the role at which he is good at, which is playing either up front or just off the main striker. And that also ties into the substitutions, where Graham Murty did take Kenny Miller off, and credit for that. You could suggest he waited too long, and I think that it's been a thing of Graham Murty's spell, that if it's not been going well, he's not great with substitutions. He waited too long to make the changes. When he did, they were like for likes rather than doing anything tactical, and bringing on a kid on loan who, to be honest, doesn't look physically capable of being a first team player for 2 minutes at 2-0 down struck me as ludicrous.
It's our post-Hearts match aside, it's our weekly debate about quarterback Kenny. David, I happen to think, we talked about this a few weeks ago, Pedro was right to drop him. The banishment stuff was laughable mismanagement, as it maybe is with Pena at the minute. But performance-wise, he wasn't cutting it. Hearts, he came back, he was superb. It was almost, I've got a point to prove. The last two games, especially Saturday, it's not comparing the skill levels. It's Wayne Rooney, you're right, in his late Manchester United days, basically throwing positional caution to the wind and doing whatever the hell he wants to try and make things happen. And with that, we lose shape, momentum, focus and discipline. He's 37. For me, it's simple. He's got a great wealth of experience, and he's a great asset if he's used in the right manner, and if he's forced to be used in that right manner. If not, he's a liability and he may as well move.
Andy?
Yeah, I was gushing about Miller after the Hearts game. I think everybody was. I think there was a wee bit of combination of the bounce of a new manager, a new temporary manager, and the fact that he had a major point to prove in front of the country's TV. But it was very poor on Saturday, and I think there was a wider issue on Saturday. The second half in particular, our entire midfield was dysfunctional, and one of the things that I get really annoyed at was that the second goal that we lost, right? I know we're chasing the game and we're trying to push forward. How can you lose a goal like that on a counter for a big punt out of their own box when you've got essentially two defensive midfielders in Jack and Holt, right? Jack was the one that was out in the right wing firing in a big looping hopeful cross that gets swallowed up by their centre half for the umpteenth time that game. The ball breaks into the middle of the park. Jack's sauntering back because he's so far out of position there's no point in him actually running, and then you're then isolated with two strikers on two centre halves basically, and Jason Holt chasing them. So this is something that I think is personnel. First of all, we're asking players in our team to do things they're not capable of. Ryan Jack is a defensive midfielder, and that's a great defensive midfielder, looks very tidy, but if you start asking him to do what Barry Ferguson used to do, which is drive on, create things, get in and around the box, beat players at the edge of the box, shoot, it's not going to happen. He's not got it in his locker, and that's not the boys' fault, because that's not why we brought to Rangers. So there is a wider issue here that, first of all, personnel, we don't have the players. Secondly, we're not using them in the correct manner, because if you're telling me that Crancher's on the bench, you're telling me he's fit, so why is he not playing? Right? Because if he's not fit enough to come off that bench and do something in that game, I really need to question the manager or his selection or his bench.
No, I agree, and there's so many things. So I apologise to people for a little bit jumping all over the place here, but there are just so many points that are coming up. One of that was you mentioned Barry there. I think Kenny's doing what Barry did and got criticised for, which, my ball Barry, as people called it. But the thing about Ferguson was that at one point he was the complete midfielder. And he was. I mean, he could do everything. And okay, in his later days, his star has faded, as it happens to everyone. But you could understand when you saw him running about when we were losing, trying to make something happen, trying to do everything. You could understand it. Kenny Miller has never had that ability. He's very good at one specific thing or one specific place in the side. He doesn't have that complete all-round game, and for him to suddenly at 37 think he has the ability to do that staggers me. And more importantly, the fact that no one has tried to disabuse him of this notion staggers me even further. Now, the other main point coming out of that is lack of leadership, I thought, on Saturday, where everyone basically deferred to Miller. Now, we didn't have Bruno Alves, and contrary to what ran in the Sun and then was corrected, it wasn't because he refused to sit on the bench. Now, whether or not it was a case of he knew the team wasn't going to be changed and he then said, well, I've got a back injury, I don't know. But he definitely he had let Murty know beforehand that he wasn't fit and he was left off the bench. There's no problem, he's training. He went to a Rangers charity function on Saturday night, although according to reports he wore trainers at a black tie event, but you can't have everything. And we've already learned this season how eccentric Portuguese people can be, I think it's fair to say. But I just felt that we completely lacked leaders, and I was disappointed because so many of them deferred to Kenny. And the ones I'm going to pick out, without Alves and Dorrans, we obviously lack leadership. It's so apparent, you can see that. But on Saturday, Ryan Jack's been a captain of an SPFL side for a number of years. Ryan Jack should be taking that responsibility. Danny Wilson was the captain of Hearts. He's playing with a youngster who's made a mistake. Danny Wilson should be taking that responsibility. James Tavernier's been here for 2 and a bit years now. He's a senior pro in that squad. James Tavernier should be taking that responsibility. None of them did, none of them do. And I found that very disappointing.
I'm sighing, David, because I don't disagree with any of it. You look at Danny Wilson as the example. He's back in that side. He's strolling about at the back as if he's never been away until push comes to shove. And then there's, he's got a young kid playing alongside him. And granted, McCrory's mistake was fucking hideous. Right? He's not got away from it. He's a young guy, but that was a 12-year-old's error. However, he stood up and he got on with it. That was fine. Wilson's job was then to walk him through the next 25 minutes, half an hour. Walk him through it as a... And again, I'm not for a second comparing ability. But you read about Graham Souness on the park, especially in his Liverpool and his Scotland days. And Jock Stein would talk about if someone made an error, as soon as the ball's back in play, the first person by his side is Graham Souness, playing a simple 3-yard pass, taking it back again, playing it back to him again, up in his confidence. That's leadership.
Danny Wilson is 26, and still you hear people say, oh, he would do well if he had a big dominant centre, i.e. Davy Weir, if he had his dad next to him. And he's 26 now.
David, Danny Wilson is not getting better, either mature-wise or ability-wise. So, Ross McCrory's doing that. He needed a guy alongside him. Danny Wilson isn't it. Simple. From a leadership point of view, the only leader Rangers had on that park was Kenny Miller, and Kenny Miller decided that he was going to be a fucking quarterback for the day.
Andy, we're Monday quarterbacking here, we're Monday morning quarterbacking here, I know, but still, if Bruno Alves was fit, and we have to understand that possibly he was not, but should there have been, rather than, well, we won last week, we're just going with the same team anyway, Bruno, take your time, should we have been doing that, or should we be thinking here, hang on a minute, this is Bruno Alves, Portuguese legend, okay, maybe hasn't been in the best of form this season, but still, we've got him here, we're paying him a healthy wage. You need to get fit and get into that side because you are a first name on the team sheet. Or instead, I think it was more a case of, well, we're just going to go with the lad's done great last week, we're just going to go. And was that an error?
It was definitely an error. It's very laudable for any manager to say, you played well last week, son, I'm going to keep you in. That's fine. And in theory, that's a very good thing, very nice thing, but it's not the way we should be working. Bruno Alves is fit, he plays. It's as simple as that, because we're talking about leaders. You can only be a leader on a football park if you're able to look after your own game first and we've got too many players in our team there that can't even look after their own game, never mind pick up somebody else's slack. And again, it gets back to ability, confidence, all these kind of things. I said a couple of weeks ago, now this might be controversial, and I'm going to qualify it for the listeners, right? I thought McCrory played extremely well on Saturday, apart from his mistake, right? And I thought he played extremely well after his mistake, which is actually a bigger measure of the lad. He still does a couple of things that is only natural for a young centre-half. He dives into tackles when he's trying to recover, which could pull him into trouble against better opposition. But his positioning, his pace, getting and using his body, it was great, right? So I'm not saying the boy isn't worthy of his place in the team, but I don't think he should have been playing this Saturday. And the reason I don't think he should be playing this Saturday is because a couple of weeks ago, I said that when he first broke into the team and we were raving about him, rightly so, I said, great, fantastic prospect. He looks as if he's got everything that he needs to progress in the game. But what I don't want to see is our young players like that burned. And by burned, I mean playing them week in, week out, where we're actually relying too much on them. And I don't care what anybody says, if you're a centre-half playing for Rangers against anybody, there's a lot sitting on your shoulders there. So I would have preferred to have seen, if Cardoso was fit, I would like to see Cardoso play. Right? The boy is him and Alves are our best centre-halves, without question in my mind. I think they complement each other. There's a wee bit of pace with Cardoso, he can use the ball. He's still getting to grips with the aerial aggression side of Scottish football. But I think Murty was just a touch too loyal, particularly to Wilson. Wilson is, I'm trying to be kind here, but he's not going to be what we need. If you've got an archetypal centre-half, the first things you tick off are strength, heading ability, and leadership. And I think he's lacking in all three. And he's no progress for his days when he was playing alongside Davy Weir.
No, absolutely, and I agree with you. I think you pick the team on ability really as often as you can, unless someone is going through a really awful spell of form. You pick the team on ability, and it's clear how much we missed Alves and Doran's sheer presence on Saturday. Although, you know, the argument can be we hadn't won 3 games in a row with them in the team either, so it does go both ways, and I do understand that. But fellow podder Alex said on the preview show that we were discussing the growing might as well just give it to Murty to the end of the season bandwagon, and Alex's point, which I thought was a very good one, was one defeat will end up, and I think it did. And I think that you saw on Saturday, it's almost like we need a fucking manager, and a proper one. However, we're getting the noises, and we can only go on this, that the noises coming out of Rangers, and these are the noises which are coming out of Rangers incidentally, these are not things that the media are making up, is that there's still no rush, that the board will not be moved by one result and will not start to change their plan. I'm questioning whether or not there is a plan, because I've seen nothing to indicate that there is. And even if there is, it's hard to have a lot of faith, because the last time we were in this situation, Ian, we ended up with Pedro. So surely the board have to now react, not panic and get an appointment, but they promise transparency. And if they think Murty's fine till X, they should say that. And if not, and they don't have any clue of what they're doing at the moment, it's a huge, huge panic. Because if you see from Rangers social, I feel so sorry for the Rangers social media guys at the moment, because they're putting out stuff, they'll say, the Burn Supper's coming up, and they're just getting savaged. And it's because punters don't want to hear this. Punters don't want to hear anything from the club at the moment apart from, here's our new manager. And they don't seem to grasp the level of anger which is just going to grow with every poor result. If Rangers don't win on Friday night at Dundee, the mood is going to be murderous.
Don't disagree with any of that, David. Today's the 21st of November. It's 26 days since Pedro Caixinha left. Now, for me, I will probably come on to the people who are actually selecting the manager. But the trigger was pulled on Pedro Caixinha, and the people that we have on as directors, non-executive directors and all the rest of it, they're all very successful businessmen. And in any business, you've got a plan A, you've got a plan B, and you've probably got plans C, D, E, and F. And it's quite clear we sacked Pedro with no plan B. So for me, we're 26 days later, and we as a support who have ploughed millions in, and for the listener, I'm going to qualify this by saying you've got to almost give the board the disclaimer of we are eternally grateful for what happened in 2015, right? We are, of course, but there's got to be a time that we look above the parapet from that and say we're 26 days on. That's almost 4 weeks. And just about 2 of those weeks were an international break when a new manager could have had the vast majority of his squad working on ideas, bedding himself in, all the rest of it. The anger is what I'd say. The anger is palpable, to be honest, David. It's growing. It's going to get worse. And the overarching feeling of we're almost 4 weeks in and this is on the board with no succession planning. That's increasing. It's becoming a joke. I tweeted the other night that, again, big believer, whatever walk of life it is, leaders lead from the front, and our board are fucking hiding just now.
They can't go into the AGM, Andy, because even if they have a new manager in place, they're going to get bollocked, and I think they'll be surprised by the level of it from the fans about the whole Caixinha. I think questions are going to be asked very loudly and very directly at the AGM about the whole Caixinha thing, but surely they can't believe for a second that they can go in with this sort of hinterland at the moment of Graham Murty and we're kind of looking and we'll get there when we get there. Surely they're not that naive.
No, I don't think they will be, but the problem here is it didn't need to be like this. And what really worries me is that the Rangers supporters' relationship with this board is probably the most key thing to how our future years pan out. If we don't understand what they're doing, if we don't understand the problems that they're facing, and we don't give them a wee bit of forgiveness, then we've got a problem, because there's 2 sides to it. There's a footballing side and rebuilding a football side, right? That's obvious. We've also got the rebuilding of the club as an entity, as a business, as a financial powerhouse as it used to be in Scottish football. The 2 things do go hand in hand. But if it was easy to rebuild a football side, then every club would be successful, right? Anybody can appoint a manager and it goes wrong. So I do have a degree of sympathy for the Caixinha thing, because it went wrong, and it went wrong badly, but I can understand why they appointed the guy. I think if Caixinha was on the Apprentice, they'd only need 1 episode, because he'd have Alan Sugar appoint him in the first episode. That's how smooth he was. And but the other side of it is the football side of it, the financial side of it. I read through the accounts, and I'm fortunate that I'm not an accountant, but I can understand books. I can understand profit and loss and everything else. So I had to read through that. That is the most transparent set of accounts I've ever seen for a football club. And I don't think there was much missing in it from a fan's point of view, if you wanted to read through it. That was for a reason. That was the transparency they're talking about. But we still need King, Park, Bennett, everybody that's on that board to keep us going. And that's a fact of life just now. And there might be people listening just now disagreeing with me. That's a fact. We need them just now from a financial point of view. The deal with the devil is, though, that if they're writing the cheques, we have to give them defer to them in terms of having a wee bit of say in the running of the club. And where I think it's went wrong, David, is we've got Robertson as a chief exec or a managing director, I think his title is. He is basically steering the ship, but he's got Dave King sitting in the back seat telling him what to do, right? And I don't think the connection between the two is strong enough, because I don't think Robertson's got authority to do what he needs to do as per Lawwell does at Celtic. Celtic give Lawwell total autonomy. Robertson doesn't have that. The reason for that is King's writing the cheques. We understand that. So I think from a supporters point of view, we need to understand that, but it's easier said than done. The man in the street doesn't get all that, and that's perfectly acceptable to me. I'll understand it because I'm in the industry and I know that kind of intricacy of the pressures of running a business like this.
Well, okay.
So I think we need to be careful we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to the board.
Oh, I agree with you, but the counterpoint to that is, okay, and it's great, and you're right about the accounts that they put out and just said here, and honestly, is everything that's going on and correct. So why then, an arguably more important area in terms of relationship with the fans, I'm not saying a more important area, incidentally, there's nothing more important at a football club than finances. We are a walking example of that, right? But in this crucial area, in terms of the relationship between the board and the supporters, why have they allowed a vacuum to develop? Because in 2017, there's no such thing as a vacuum. The old days, you bought your paper, you bought your morning paper, you could get an Evening Times at night, you spoke to your mate in the pub, and that was it. Maybe a phone in, whatever. In 2017, if there is a vacuum, people will fill it. And that's exactly what has happened with the amount of names that have been chucked about. There's been people who have been appointed, sacked, crucified, all in the space of time, and we don't even know if they've been approached yet. Why are they allowing this particularly crucial area? And I understand they can't on a daily basis say, well, we've approached this guy and we want to appoint him, but he's taking his time. But such has been the lack of clarity coming out of the club, and use of the media has been poor because that they have this relationship, particularly with Jim Traynor, it's so aggressive, pretty much against all members of the press, that instead of being able to control the narrative and drip feed out, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, I think that they're proud that the media don't have a clue what's going on. And Jim Traynor's statement, Rangers' statement, Jim Traynor's statement a couple of weeks ago, which basically said, hi, you're all speculating, but we haven't done anything, so all your speculation has been bollocks. I think that kind of thing is, great. We all hate the media too, we understand it. But in not using that, and not using the official club channels either to do that you've not controlled the narrative. And what's happened is the narrative has ran away, and now the narrative is they don't have a clue what they're doing, they're wasting time, they're torn by indecision. And that's the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment, because I don't feel that they have in any way shaped from day one, this is where we're going, or this is the thought. So nobody really knows what's going on, and they're taking pride in that, I think, as opposed to realising that, okay, the media don't know what's going on, great, well done, but neither do we. And when we're losing 2-0 at home to Hamilton Accies, we're not going to think there's a masterstroke coming, because they used up that credit with the Kashinya appointment, unfortunately. And that's why they don't get the benefit of the doubt this time that they did get when they took their time the last time.
I think, to be honest, David, you talk about Stuart Robertson, talk about Traynor and his role of whatever the fuck it is, pseudo head of PR or comms,
it's not pseudo. He does the PR and the comms. It's as simple as that.
So for me, if you're not controlling the narrative as a huge institution as Rangers are, if you're not managing to control that narrative within a small country, then that's a dereliction of duty for me. And that's, Traynor is guilty as charged. He's got to be, because we're all sitting here and it's fucking open season again. When it comes to Stuart Robertson, he's a managing director. I think, and Andy, you talked about Lawwell across the city. I mean, he's way more paid. He's probably, I think he's titled CEO, but he's Desmond's man on the ground. Much the same way as Robertson's Dave King's man on the ground, only he's either not trusted or he's not as talented or he's not whatever. At the end of the day, he was the finance guy at Motherwell. We're almost back to, you get the outcome you deserve from the appointments that you make. And we've appointed a guy, a chartered accountant, as an MD of the biggest organisation he's ever worked for. And I get they work for PricewaterhouseCoopers, I know that, but from in a footballing sense, Rangers the biggest with their biggest role, and Traynor the biggest institution he's ever worked for, in their top role, and can't control the narrative. we are back to playing or non-playing. We're fucking seeing it playing out in front of our eyes, and almost, we as supporters aren't getting what we deserve. But from an appointments point of view, why on earth would we expect anything else?
Andy, your thoughts?
First of all, in the PR, trainer's been a disaster, right? I've used the word or the phrase "a body of evidence" a couple of times, and we've now got a body of evidence that since he's been at Rangers, has there anything went right? The fact that we are still at loggerheads with BBC Scotland for whatever reason, and it hasn't been resolved, even partially to our benefit, is a joke and a disgrace. Because how the hell can you control a narrative in a wee country like this if you've got the biggest broadcaster basically ignoring you? And anybody that's listening to BBC Scotland will know what I mean. You wouldn't know he existed. But back to Robertson, I think you're right, Ian. He is Dave King's man. I think he's the kind of man he needs right now, because the books are all right. I'm not going to bore everybody to death with the books. I think the books are where they should be for where we are in terms of recovery, right? So that means that Robertson's doing that side of his job correctly, and his team. Where he's fallen down is, we talk about football administration, that's fallen down because, I said in a previous pod, if nobody was thinking about even the merest possibility of needing a new manager after Niederkorn at some point in the next 6 months, if they're not thinking about that or even making provision for it, my God, it's beyond belief if that's the case. So that's where they've put ourselves under pressure, and that's why I mean it didn't need to be like this, because they've left ourselves wide open that when it came to that point in time, when Caixinha's time was up, there wasn't a defined solution ready to go off the shelf. They look as if they've just started that morning after they've sacked him, which beggars belief, really. So,
Andy, see the point about Robertson
sorry,
there?
on you go, Dave.
No, so the reason, I'm sorry to cut in, but that you've just there made a better case for the board to more people for free than Rangers PR have done in the last month. That's a fact. You've just sat there and made a better case saying that the board. So why is Robertson allowing or accepting a PR wing of the club that is allowing him to be painted in the kind of situation that he is, as people think, he's basically a wee boy that doesn't know what he's doing.
Somebody must trust trainer.
Somebody must, but that's what I'm saying. That he's if you've just sat there and I'm sitting going, that's a good point, and I know you well, and I trust you. I'm thinking if Andy says that, then it's probably true. But you've just made a more passionate and stronger case about how the board are doing in one very important aspect to more people than Rangers have. That for me is a massive failure, because I think that at that top level at Rangers, the trainer's more interested in his wee personal battle with the people he doesn't like than he is about actually going out. And more importantly, in modern, and again it's 2017, why is a 50-year newspaperman your best choice to do PR? Which is a completely different thing in a completely different industry these days. It's just retrograde thinking, and we are paying the price for it. And the fact that the fans are so angry against a board who, to be honest, the fans want to really, really like, I think is endemic of terrible, terrible communication. And were it me, I would be hauling in whoever was. I would take it in-house for a kick-off, but I would be hauling whoever was doing it over the coals on a daily basis and saying, this is the message I want out, you're not putting it out there. And we're accepting it. Back to Ian's point, if you accept this stuff, then you're going to get the same results, and that's what's happening. And yeah, I don't blame fans for being angry. I don't blame fans for thinking that, we're in the dark. And the board, I'm sure, will come along and see, I think Dave King is cut from the same cloth as David Murray, in terms of that, although he's a little bit better with the fans, he still sees it very much as we run the club, you pay your money and turn up and support. And there are other voices in the board who don't agree with that, but that's what King is from. That's his idea of football club ownership, chairmanship, whatever. Right? The difference, as we've spoken about before, is that he doesn't have the love me attitude that David Murray had. But they have to understand that the Rangers support, having been through so much in the last 5 years, doesn't have the infinite patience that it maybe had 10 years ago. And they're in desperate trouble of losing people who I think at heart want to believe in them. And it's over silly matters like this, silly, appoint a manager, but straightforward matters like this that are not, that are run-of-the-mill decisions that happen almost every day in football where managers are hired and fired. And I'm very disappointed. And I personally, if it was me, would be absolutely apoplectic with the people. If they have a message, that's the thing, right? If they have a joined-up message, which we like to believe that they have, the fact that it's not getting out there, well, who do you blame? You blame your PR people, but we don't, and we allow this to continue, and we allow this kind of, as I say, this battle between people, of which we are merely a bystander and almost like a funder, rather, we put the funds in to allow one half of it to do it, but we don't seem to get much out of it. And I think that the anger among the support is growing. I agree with Ian there. I think it's palpable, and we're in a situation where a couple more bad results is really going to set it off.
David, I'll ask you a question. Do you think trainer attracts more antagonism than he does benefit the other way back?
Oh God, yeah. And I think he wants to. I think he enjoys it. He's not beloved. I mean, among the PR, among the press, which is, like we all can't stand the press. We're Rangers fans. It's understandable. But I think Trainer's not a talentless guy. It would be anyone telling you that is an idiot, right? Jim Trainor's a very talented guy, but he's also an older guy. He's set in his ways, and what he's doing at the moment is, it appears anyway, is settling scores with people he doesn't like from his years in the industry. The constant running battles between him and Jackson, for example, and he's doing it on our dime. Which he can do because it's his business. At the end of the day, he's a subcontractor. He doesn't work for Rangers. A subcontractor, or if you like, an agency, should be, you've worked with them, they should be easier to control. The second they do something wrong, you haul them in and threaten to pull the business, but we never do. So, I don't blame Jim Traynor, because that's what he wants to do, and we're allowing him to do it. You should never have a situation where a client leads a business. The business should tell the agency what they want, and then they should measure it to see if it's being delivered. And the fact we're even talking about this, and the fact that a lot of Rangers supporters, incidentally, are talking about this is not something that's, deep undercover. A lot of Rangers fans look at this and are aware of Traynor and aware of the job that he does. I think shows you the failure.
Yeah, I agree.
It really is in a situation where we just can't go on with it, and somebody's going to have to make a decision. And again, the AGM's coming up, and I think it's going to come up, and the board would do well to pay attention to it, because people's patience isn't infinite. We always do. I'm a huge one for it. We need to remember March 2015, what that board did for us, and I will never ever forget it. But they can't live off that forever. They can't live off not being Mike Ashley forever. And we are now, and I think it's such a shame, because, okay, they're not in the honeymoon period, but they could still be in a period where, trust hasn't been broken, and they're in danger of that happening through silly mistakes such as no communication strategy, or if there is one, a very, very faulty and badly aimed one, through indecision or appearing to look indecisive, which may be tied into the last point. And I think when every man and their dog in a stadium can see the desperate need for a manager, and you've taken 26 days after having a manager that the vast majority of that stadium was aware was on the brink, it goes back to Ian's point, why was there no plan B? And it's things like this, these little silly mistakes that are piling up, and when they break the camel's back, all hell will break loose. That's my concern.
And off the back of that, David, just to kind of close out the whole comms PR bit, an establishment like Rangers has gone through exactly what we've all collectively gone through. We've appointed Traynor and Trainor's company as an external consultant to do the PR and comms work on our behalf. He's antagonised every fucking journalist in the country and basically painted a target on his back and our back to settle all scores and all the rest of it. And more importantly for me, at the same time, hasn't valued a customer base, and I use customer in the not in the old David Murray, Martin Bain way. in our Rangers customer fan base, not taking us on that journey. That's honestly, see, from a PR and comms point of view, that's 101 stuff. And I get he is a super talented guy, but he's monumentally fucked this up and he needs to go.
No, because
he's failed to harness the collective resilience that we've shown in the last 6 years.
Yes,
and that's unforgivable.
No,
he can't turn it on. It's too late.
Spot on, and again, he's allowed on his watch a gap because he's not in touch with what the fans think. And again, that's the first thing I would do. And I would say customers, I know people get upset about it, but Rangers are a business at the end of the day. And having worked in that industry myself and not claiming to be an expert, but it's so straightforward. The first thing you do is you identify your customers, you identify the message that you want to get to them, and you relentlessly hit it and you measure it constantly. Rangers don't do any of that. And you see at the moment the results of that where, like I say, if you just want a visual representation to it, go and read the replies to anything that the official Rangers accounts are posting on social media, because that's your instant feedback. It's such a great tool if you work in marketing, because you can see instantly what your customers think of you. And when you can't talk about anything because your customers don't want to hear it because there's a huge situation that needs to be addressed, that's a failure of leadership. And it's a failure of communication. So it's where we are, unfortunately. Now, again, don't really want to kind of spend too long in this, but there was some talk again about the Ibrox atmosphere, that there is certainly a discrepancy between the home form and the away form, and the atmosphere at Ibrox, for all the reasons we've just spent an hour talking about, incidentally, is not great at the moment. It's easy to say, the players are professional and it shouldn't be affecting them, but they do seem to react better to the backing they get from away fans, which tends to be, if you like, louder, and just, every club's away support tends to be, in inverted commas, better, because most home fans, especially big clubs, do tend to be that bit quieter. But Andy, is this becoming an issue? Is it actually something that's hurting the team?
It's definitely noticeable. On Saturday, I'm not going to say I'm the one that's sitting with a loudspeaker telling everybody to sing, right? I'm not. I sit at the back of the govern. But there was a noticeable kind of turn when maybe daft things like players misplacing a pass or something doesn't come off them. There just seems to be a bit of a lack of goodwill just now. But it comes to the fact that we're into the second half and we're still drawing on each with Hamilton at home. And I don't think there's ever been a time at Ibrox when it's never been the case that will happen. But it just feels as if, as a crowd, we should be showing a wee bit more, how can I put it, emotional intelligence, that this team needs a wee bit more care and attention than some of the teams we've had in the past that could raise their game. So the crowd does have a role to play. You're right in pointing out, David, that the crowd at home is a bit tetchy, and it's no helping the team. That's a definite. It's no helping some of the individual players. I mean, we're talking about Windasel, we're talking about Hodgson, right? They might not be Rangers players for long term. They might not be good enough. We can all agree on that. That doesn't mean we need to make things harder for them than they need to be.
No, absolutely. And Ian, I wonder if it's a bit of a chicken egg situation. I really do, in terms of. See, I am a great believer in you pay your money, you can go and, so long as you don't punch people, behave pretty much any way you want. And I think that the supporters, especially our supporters who are still injecting money into the club after everything, I'm loath to criticise. It's just that, and you can see it affecting the players, but is it a case of, well, David, you've just sat and listed for an hour the reasons why the crowd are upset, and then you're saying, well, they're upset and that's affecting the team. Is it chicken egg here? Do we need the team to go, right, lads, at the end of the day, we're all pulling down a lot of money, and whether or not it's right, or whether or not we feel that they should be singing and getting behind us at every moment, we have to accept that that's the way the crowd is, this is the way the cookie has crumbled, and we need to get them on side by our performances? Or is it not as simple as that?
fairly simple outlook in life, David. You know, that's a two-way street. Two key questions. First one is there a psychological issue with the players' eyebrows? Undoubtedly, yes. The stats don't lie. We've played 7 home games and we haven't won 5 of them. 4 of them were against Hibs, Hearts, Kilmarnock and Hamilton. You know, so psychologically, we're back to, we talked about it under Warburton as well. You know, we talked about it under McCall. We talked about it under McCoist. Shirt's a bit too heavy for some of them, quite clearly. Second key question is the flip side. Are our home support not supportive enough? And I would say from Saturday, and again, you can hear it increasing as the season goes on, that we've got our fair share of moaning and whinging bastards, let's face it, right?
You're one of them.
Fair share. Yeah. Do you know what? That's generally only outside the ground. In the ground, I like going to cuddle Broxy. So, but we can all argue that folk pay their money and yada yada, fine. But effectively, what happens is you pay your money, you get the teams back, you ensure the current crop hide, knowing fine well they feel the shirt's too heavy. They regress, doesn't help the outcome, and again we've got this perpetual downward spiral again. But the players have to be stronger. Doesn't matter what role you've got in life, doesn't matter what job you do, you're going to get a bit of abuse, you're going to get bad news, you're going to get shit in your life, and we seem to just get crop after crop of players that turn into fucking Nicky Law.
It's like I say, it's a debate that can rage on, but it's one of these ones where I think it's interesting to talk about, and I think people will have their different viewpoints, and they, you know, I'm not saying who are right and who are wrong, because I can see merit in both points. Certainly we've all heard the Ibrox guys, you know, who sit there basically waiting for the players to make a mistake. We've all seen that, but it's not going to change. So I kind of think, in a way, Andy, the debate is almost academic, because yes, we can all say, I wish everybody would go in and sing, and I wish, you know, at the next home game that Ibrox was rocking, and I wish that if the players made a mistake, nobody bothered. Or we can say, well, I don't agree, the players, you know, have to raise, you know, their game, and you have to develop a thick skin. The fact is, we all know what the atmosphere at the next game is going to be like, and the game after that, the game after that, it isn't going to change.
No, I mean, we need to be careful. All football supporters are this. All football supporters are emotional and have their fair share of grumbles and turn on certain players or managers, whatever. It happens. We've got to remember that, I mean, that was another sellout on Saturday for how many times this season. There's barely been a game at home this season that hasn't been close to sellout, so we've got to take that into consideration. But I think, you mentioned it there, David, it's an accumulative effect that it's not just about what's happening on the park that day, it's about everything. It's about the sense of that we've just stalled as a club, we can't get this manager in, that there's nothing really to look at and say, well, that's on the horizon. There's just a wee sense of, Christ, is this another false dawn? We're how many games into the season and we're fell behind Celtic so far, we're clinging on to Aberdeen by the skin of our teeth, these kind of things. It just adds that wee bit of pressure to every single pass on that park, and it's very, very unlikely that any football supporter is going to rationalise themselves in that moment and say, don't grumble at that pass. It's just not going to happen.
No.
So
that's the reality. That is.
That's the reality. Aye.
Yeah. No, you're totally correct.
So we've got to remember that it's an emotional game. The Rangers fans, we are fantastic to support our club and putting our money where our mouth is, like nobody else. But maybe we just need to sometimes, and maybe this is what this kind of pod's for, is to take a step back and kind of self-analyse and say, well, do you know what? Maybe we can kind of check ourselves at that a wee bit and help the team.
Yeah, I think
so. Because
so.
away from home, it's totally different.
I think that the away fans just go with a different mentality, but I think, as you said earlier, that's every club in the UK, in fact every club in the world, and I think most people. But I did always find that interesting, because I thought for years, well, you know, the professional footballers, and you know, we like to imagine that the crowd as a 12th man is important, but if that was the case, then clubs from Turkey and Greece would win everything. But then when we had Kevin Thompson on earlier in the season, he said no, he really appreciated especially the away support and the noise they made in away grounds and almost taking over away grounds, and it gave them such a boost. And I thought, well, there you go then. And especially with a group he played with a group of characters that I think it's not controversial to say were far mentally stronger than many of the players that are currently in this squad. So, you know, the fact that they were able to cope, and they got their fair share, incidentally, at Ibrox, but you know, the reality of the situation, that's what it is. Well, we're beginning to run a little bit long, and we could be here all night. So at that point, I'll wrap things up. A few things to go through. Just to say, we'll be back on Thursday with our preview show. We're at Dundee on Friday night. So we'll have a preview show of that set up. And also just to tell you that there will be another YouTube exclusive Scott's Thoughts, which is not easy for me to say. I'll need to get him to come up with something that rhymes easier. Wanker's Banker or something like that for me to discuss. So hit the YouTube channel tomorrow night, and you will find that. That's on the Wednesday evening. It'll be up there. It's a solo one, so I'm going to have to vet it first, just in case. Because can you imagine Scott being left alone with a microphone? It concerns me, but it'll be there for his Copa Libertadores preview for those of you who fancy yourselves as football studs. It'll be there for you to listen to. And with that, I'll thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Miles, and I'll thank my two guests today for a very engaging, but very tough, but I enjoyed it, the discussion. So first of all, thanks to Ian Hogg.
Thank you, David, and a quick plea to the Ibrox selection committee: get your finger out your fucking arse, please.
To Andy McGowan.
Always a pleasure to talk about the Rangers, David, so thank you.
See, crowd pleaser there, Ian. That's how you win them. That's why he's become so popular in such a short space of time.
It was a quick one.
That's it. He knows how to work an audience. And just a wee thing from me before I go is, as I'm sure some of you know, but many of you will not, I've been selected, I'm very pleased about this, to be a convention partner at NARSA next year in Calgary. Please come along and see us. There'll be a live pod and various other things, and it'll be really the only chance that you'll ever get to come and see me when I'm in a good mood. So if you want to do that, go to the NARSA website, just put NARSA into your Google machine and up it will pop. My name's David Edgar. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you again on Friday. Bye.